Hey guys, it's Sarah and welcome to BookList Thursday. Every Thursday, my friend Lisa and I are going to be giving you a list of books or a list that is book related that we want to share with you. If you have not checked out Lisa's channel, her channel is called Books and Smiles. I will leave it linked down below. Please go and check her out. She is incredible. So this week our topic is rereads. So books that we have read previously that we would actually like to reread again for whatever reason. And I love this topic because it's something that's been on my mind a lot, and it's going to be something I'm going to be doing probably next year. I have some reread plans in my head going on. So I'm excited about this list. So I do have 10 books to talk about this time. I'm going to start off with kind of just books in general that I would like to reread, and then I will end with some books that I have immediate plans to reread here very soon. The first one is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I started to read this book when we lived in Tucson, which was a few years ago, and I could not get into it. I tried to read it. I got about a quarter of the way through it and I was confused. I didn't know what was going on. I just wasn't into it. So I put it down and kind of wrote it off as a DNF. However, I gave it another shot. I found this copy at the library at a sale, so I picked it up and I gave it another try and I really enjoyed it. I ended up finishing it and giving it 4 stars. However, I do want to go back and reread this one day because while I did really enjoy it, I don't remember a lot of the details anymore. I read this back in 2015. So I would like to revisit it again. I'm getting much more into World War II historical fiction and I'm enjoying it a lot more now. So this definitely falls into that category and I would like to revisit it and just relive the story again. Next one is a book that I have read twice already and I know I want to reread it again another time, and that's Water for Elephants by Sarah Gruen. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I absolutely love this book, and the movie is also great. I loved both of them, but this book, I read it when we lived in California, which was 10 years ago at least, and I loved it the first time I read it. I didn't think I was going to. I was like, this is a book about a circus in the 20s, like, okay. And I devoured it and I absolutely thought it was just so beautiful. And then I read it again when we lived in Tucson because it was just one that I wanted to kind of revisit and see if I loved it as much as the first time I read it, and I absolutely did. I was reading it the second time and going, I remember why I loved this the first time because it's amazing. So this is definitely one that I will reread again in the future. No immediate plans yet, but I definitely know I will. This next one is another one of my all-time favorites. This is going to be a running theme here, and that is Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. This is a historical fiction book that is Christian-based, and it is such a beautiful love story. It is absolutely a story about unconditional love and listening to God's word, and even when you don't want to. And it is just, it's beautiful. It's a long book, but I just absolutely loved it and just absorbed it, and I want to experience that again. And another one that is not necessarily one of my favorite books of all time, but it's one I would like to revisit, and that is Jane Steele, and this is written by Lindsay Fay. I actually got this book for review. It was one of the first ones I got for review, and I really enjoyed this book. I would like to read Jane Eyre first because that is a book I have not read yet. I do own it, but I would like to read that one first and then go back and read this one just to see what elements of the story that Lindsay pulled from in order to write this one. I've heard it's a very good kind of interpretation, and you know, the inspiration behind it is really well done in here. And I did enjoy this when I read it, so I would like to go back and revisit it again after I read the inspiration, which was Jane Eyre. So that'd be kind of like a comparison type thing. All right, getting back to another one of my favorites of all time. This is probably number 2 on my list, right underneath Harry Potter, and that is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I don't feel like I need to explain it, so I'm not going to. It's phenomenal. It's beautiful. It's important. It's heartbreaking. It's everything, and I want to read it again. Another book that I'm really interested in rereading is The Host by Stephanie Meyer. I do not own this book. I used to. I have no clue where it went though. I haven't had it for a long time, but I know I bought it because I bought it after Twilight. And I remember reading this book and really liking it a lot. I was surprised by how much I liked it. However, on Goodreads, I only gave it 3 stars, which is not a great rating for me. It's very middle of the road. So I want to go back and reread this book and see what I think now after it's been quite a while and some of my tastes have changed a little bit. But it is a science fiction book and I'm much more, getting into those types of things now. So I think maybe now I would enjoy it a lot more than I did before. But my own rating on Goodreads really confused me. I don't know why I gave it a 3. I feel like it was higher than that for me. So I would like to revisit this book and read it again. I've seen a couple people rereading it on BookTube. Julie from Pages and Pens and Chelsea from Chelsea Darling Reads, and also Kelly from Kelly's Book Spill all have recently reread this book. And it made me want to reread it too because I was like, oh man, I remember reading that and really, really liking it. And it's just one that I would like to revisit and remember why. Another one is by one of my favorite authors, and it was my favorite book that I've read by her so far. I still have not read all of her work yet, but of all the ones that I have read, this one's been my favorite, and that is 19 Minutes by Jodi Picoult. And this one does follow a school shooting, so I'm not ready for it quite yet, but I remember reading this and it really hit me. It just made me feel things that were very confusing, and I was feeling sympathy for the shooter because you do get a point of view from the shooter and you kind of are explained why this is happening and what's going through his head. And even though you're not supposed to be on his side and you're not supposed to be okay with what he's doing, you see him rationalizing it, therefore you start rationalizing it. And I remember just having a reaction to it like, this is not fair. I don't want to be thinking these things. I don't want to be feeling these things for him. I don't want to feel bad for this guy. No, he's bad. And it was very, very interesting. So I do want to reread this. It's going to take me a while before I'm ready to do that, but I do want to. So yeah. Okay, and now I have 3 books that I am kind of making immediate plans to reread here soon. So they will be something that are going to be happening sooner rather than later. The first one is The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. I don't know how to say his name. If you guys know, will you give me a grammar lesson down below? Let me know how to say his last name. I remember reading this book and loving it. It is a historical fiction. It is about building cathedrals and monks. And I remember they're on roads, traveling on foot. That's really all I remember though. But I remember reading it and going, I should not be enjoying this as much as I am. Like the premise of the book sounds really, really boring. And it's like this big, it's a huge book. But I remember just absolutely loving it. I really did. And I have been thinking about rereading this anyway because the 3rd book just came out. So there are 2 books that have been out for a while. I do not believe I've read the 2nd book, and then the 3rd book just came out. So I'm really interested in revisiting the story to see if I will love it as much as I did the first time around. And luckily, this book is actually on my birthday reading project, TBR, because I had someone recommend it to me. And as soon as she put that, I went, yes, I read it, but I want to reread it. I've been thinking about it anyway, so this is a good excuse to go ahead and get that done. So sometime within this next year, I will definitely be rereading that book. The next one I would like to reread is actually being adapted, and I don't know how far into the process they are of this adaptation. I just keep hearing that it's going to be adapted, it's going to be adapted. I think it's been cast already, but I don't know if they started filming it yet. But it is one book that I remember reading and just coming out of it absolutely loving. I absolutely loved it. It was so magical and if you ask me what the premise is today, I don't really remember. I forgot a lot of the details. So I know that if I go back and read this, it's going to almost be like reading it again the first time. It's a little bit of a kind of a Romeo and Juliet type thing, but set in a circus. So this is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. And this does follow a circus that is only performed at nighttime. And there are kind of 2 big families involved in this circus and they are at war with each other. But these 2 are kind of star-crossed lovers, if you would say. That's what I remember. I could also be totally off, but that's what I remember. So I really want to reread this one because it has been a book that I have always recommended to people and told everyone that I loved it so much when I read it, and you should absolutely read this book. I love books that are set in circuses. This is the second one on my list because Water for Elephants is also a circus. And I just really want to revisit this and, you know, get those details again. And I really feel like reading it now will be like reading it for the first time. So I'm really excited about this one. But this is being adapted sometime. I'm still, again, not sure what the progress is on it. I think it's a little bit of a slower process for this one, but this is something that I definitely want to reread soon. And the last book is actually a book that I just read last year, but I want to reread it. And that is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the Farseer trilogy, and it is the first book in her Land of the, is it the Elderlings world? There's multiple trilogies in this world, and this is kind of the very beginning. Okay, so I read this. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars, but I don't remember a lot of it. And I think part of that is because I read this when we were traveling to Florida last year and we went to Disney World. And I was trying to read this while I was on vacation at Disney World. So I was already just like overstimulated, and, you know, reading is my relaxation. So I was trying to read this and relax, which did help, but I don't remember a lot of what happened in here because of that. So I think it was just kind of the wrong time for me to be getting into a high epic fantasy, which is what this is, and a whole big world being built up around me when I'm already walking around Disney World, which is, you know, if you've been there, you know, you know, it's a lot to take in. So I think I just kind of read it at the wrong time. I do want to continue with this series and get into this whole world and everything. And so I would like to revisit this and reread this one and then move on to the next one in this series. So I have actually heard that this is really, really good on audiobook. So when I do decide to pick it up and reread it, which is going to be probably sometime next year, I am going to listen to the audiobook of this one. And this actually happens to be the shortest one as well. So that'll be nice. I can kind of get through it a little bit quickly and just kind of pick up those details that I have forgotten completely and just remember what happened. So I'm excited for this though. Okay guys, that is it. That is just a short little list of books that I would like to reread, some of them just whenever, and then some of them like very, very soon. So please leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you reread books. Do you go back and revisit books that you have previously read, or do you just read them and then you're done and you move on and you never go back to them? I'm really interested to know that. And if you do reread, let me know some that you have reread or that you would like to. And please go check out Lisa's channel. I'm so excited to see what her choices are going to be, and I hope you guys have a great day. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.